2025 was supposed to be a year of rebirth in football.
And Newcastle United midfielder Sandro Tonali has been handed a 10-month ban from all football by Italian prosecutors for breaching betting regulations.
So why did it feel like a graveyard instead?
When I see Mbappe playing, it's not the Mbappe that I know.
How did Florian Wirtz go from Liverpool's £116 million genius to a ghost before Christmas?
Another player that there have been questions about is Florian Wirtz. I mean, are we just looking at a young player coming to terms with the pace and the physicality of the Premier League? Or is there a bigger problem there, do you think?
Why did João Félix, handed the freedom of Barcelona, vanish into the shadows? And how did Neymar, Pogba, even Mbappe himself turned their dream moves into disasters that crushed everything they built? These aren't just flops. These are 9 levels of 2025 transfer disasters, each one darker, each one sharper, until you ask yourself, which downfall hurt the most? Level 1. Florian Wirtz at Liverpool. The price tag prison. Liverpool didn't just buy a player in 2025, they bought a promise. £116 million for Florian Wirtz, the German wonder kid who had just lit up Bayer Leverkusen's fairy tale Bundesliga run. He was supposed to be Arne Slot's answer to a fading Salah era, the new genius, the crown jewel. But reality struck immediately. 9 Premier League games, 0 goals, 0 assists. Fans at Anfield who once held banners of hope began booing before Christmas. Pundits dragged him into comparisons with Naby Keita, another next big thing who never arrived. And yet, if you look closer, Wirtz isn't useless. The numbers whisper a different truth. 21 chances created, tied with the league's best playmakers. But when strikers miss those chances, the headlines don't say creative genius. They say £116 million flop. This is the cruel trap of a price tag. Wirtz didn't just step onto the pitch with defenders chasing him. He stepped onto it with a £116 million chain locked to his ankle. Every misplaced pass feels heavier. Every quiet game feels louder. That's why this is level 1. Because sometimes a player doesn't fail from injury or scandal. He fails because a club paid too much, too soon, and made him a target before he could even prove himself. If Wirtz shows us how a player can be destroyed by the weight of money, level 2 takes us deeper. This is what happens when the money isn't the problem, but the identity itself. When a player is tossed around like damaged goods, until he forgets who he even is. Level 2. João Félix at Barcelona, the ghost without a home. If Florian Wirtz is drowning under the weight of money, João Félix is drowning under something worse: confusion. Back in 2019, Atletico Madrid paid €126 million to make Félix the heir to Cristiano Ronaldo, Portugal's next icon, the golden boy, the man who would carry a nation. But what happened? By 2025, Félix's career looks like a suitcase tossed between airports. Atletico, Chelsea, Barcelona. Loan after loan. New coaches every season. New tactics every season. And yet, the same disappointment every season. This year was supposed to be different. A full season at Barcelona. Xavi gone, Hansi Flick in. A fresh start. But after 15 games, only a handful of flashes, no consistency, and the same questions returning. What exactly is João Félix? A winger? A second striker? A luxury? Spanish media call him El Fantasma del Camp Nou, the ghost of Barcelona. And the saddest part? He's only 25. He should be entering his prime. Instead, he's already treated like damaged goods. Managers don't trust him. Fans don't believe in him. Teammates don't rely on him. At Chelsea, they said he was too soft for the Premier League. At Atletico, too free for Simeone's system. At Barcelona, too inconsistent for a rebuild. That's why Félix lands at level 2. Wirtz might recover because his problem is pressure. Félix's problem is identity. A player with world-class talent, but no home, no role, no trust. And when a player loses his identity, it's far more dangerous than losing form, because you can't rebuild what you no longer believe in. Level 1 showed us how a price tag can bury potential. Level 2 showed us how a lost identity can erase a career. But level 3? That's where football takes its darkest turn. Because nothing ends a player faster than when his own body refuses to play. Level 3. Neymar at Al Hilal. The injury empire. If Wirtz was buried by expectations and Félix by identity, then Neymar's tragedy is even crueler. His own body betrayed him. When Neymar signed for Al Hilal in 2023, the headlines were thunderous. Over $300 million with bonuses, one of the richest contracts in sports history. Saudi Arabia wanted a superstar to crown their project, and Neymar was supposed to be the king. This wasn't marketed as retirement. It was framed as resurrection. After the frustrations of PSG, the constant injuries, the Champions League failures, the endless criticism, here was Neymar's stage to dominate, to show the world he still had years of brilliance left. But instead of highlights, the world got medical reports. October 2023. Neymar tears his ACL and meniscus. He spends over a year recovering, fighting to get back. Fans waited. Brazil waited. The Saudi League waited. Finally, in 2025, he returned, only to suffer another injury after 3 matches. And this time, the whispers became screams. Is this the end? For Neymar, this wasn't just physical pain, it was humiliation. He was once the man who dribbled past entire defenses, the showman who made Brazil believe again, the face of a generation. And now, at 33, he's sidelined, while Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo have taken his place as Brazil's future. Even the 2026 World Cup looks doubtful. Level 3 is devastating because it's permanent. Wirtz can shake off pressure. Félix can rediscover his identity. But Neymar, once your knees give out, once your body refuses to cooperate, no amount of money, no dream contract, no marketing empire can save you. At Al Hilal, Neymar was supposed to become a legend of the East. Instead, he became the most expensive spectator in the world. If Neymar shows us the cruelty of the body, Level 4 shows us something darker, when it isn't your body or even your form, but the very game itself that traps you. Politics, chaos, and contracts that turn dreams into cages. Level 4. Frenkie de Jong at Barcelona, the prisoner of politics. If Neymar was destroyed by his body, Frenkie de Jong's tragedy is that his downfall had nothing to do with football at all. Back in 2019, Barcelona unveiled Frenkie like the heir to their midfield dynasty. A $90 million signing from Ajax. Smooth, intelligent, calm under pressure. The fans saw him as the new Xavi, the bridge to a brighter era. Frenkie himself, he wanted to make history at Camp Nou, but history had other plans. From the very start, he was never just a player, he was a pawn. Barcelona's financial collapse turned him into an asset on a spreadsheet. Every transfer window, rumors flew. United want him, City want him, Chelsea want him. Frenkie resisted, insisted, fought to stay. Not because Barca treated him well, but because he loved the shirt, the club, the dream. And yet, what did he get in return? Broken promises, contract disputes, endless wage politics. Even when he played, he was never truly free.
We know very well that Frenkie likes to have the ball, likes to break lines, likes to have freedom. And when you're playing in this kind of Barcelona style and philosophy, that is not something that you're going to receive.
By 2025, it became clear. Frenkie wasn't a leader of the midfield revolution. He was the hostage of a sinking empire. Injuries piled up, but worse than the physical scars was the emotional exhaustion. The constant pressure of being sold, the constant shadow of being blamed for the club's financial mess. Level 4 is cruel because it isn't failure on the pitch, it's failure off it. Frenkie still had the talent, the vision, the composure, but no player, no matter how gifted, can shine when trapped in a cage of boardroom politics and financial chaos. At Barcelona, Frenkie de Jong didn't lose his touch. He lost his freedom. And if Frenkie's cage was invisible, Level 5 is something you can't ignore. When the crowd itself, millions of voices, turns from worship to wrath, from cheers to boos, from love to hatred. Level 5, Mason Greenwood at Getafe. From redemption dream to reality check. If Frenkie de Jong's disaster was about politics, Mason Greenwood's was about something far harsher: public memory. When Greenwood moved to Getafe in 2023, it was sold as a fresh start, a chance to rebuild his reputation, to step away from the chaos of Manchester United and reintroduce himself as one of football's brightest young forwards. The talent was never in question. His left foot was electric, his finishing instinct world-class. On paper, it looked like a redemption arc waiting to happen. But football isn't played on paper. It's lived under the eyes of millions. And those eyes never forgot. Every time Greenwood touched the ball, there were whispers. Every goal was met, not just with applause, but with controversy. Sponsors stayed away, rival fans sharpened their chants. Even within his own dressing room, the shadow of his past lingered heavier than any defender marking him on the pitch. By 2025, what was supposed to be a revival looked more like slow-motion exile. Yes, he had moments of brilliance, but they were drowned out by the noise around him. Clubs hesitated to sign him, projects stalled, and suddenly, at only 23, Greenwood's career wasn't about climbing to greatness. It was about simply surviving. Level 5 is brutal because it shows how once the crowd turns on you, there's no winning them back. For Mason Greenwood, the disaster wasn't a missed pass or a bad season. It was the realization that in football, as in life, some stains never wash off. If Level 5 was about the unforgiving judgment of the fans, Level 6 takes us to something even darker. When a player bets against himself. Not metaphorically, literally. From prodigy to punishment, this is where football careers aren't just ruined, they're erased. Level 6. Sandro Tonali at Newcastle, the gamble that cost everything. Some transfers collapsed because of bad tactics, others because of injuries. But Sandro Tonali's fall wasn't about a misplaced pass or a torn ligament. It was about a choice, a bet. When Newcastle signed Sandro Tonali from AC Milan in 2023 for nearly €70 million, it was a statement. The club wasn't just buying a midfielder, they were buying the future of Italian football. A deep-lying playmaker compared to Pirlo, with elegance on the ball and fire in his tackles. St. James's Park greeted him like royalty. The fans chanted his name. The Premier League braced for a new maestro. But then, the storm hit. Reports surfaced of Tonali's involvement in illegal betting. At first, it sounded like a rumor. Then the details spilled, wagers placed on games, connections to investigations in Italy, and soon, the inevitable punishment. A 10-month ban, wiping out an entire season of his career.
Newcastle United midfielder Sandro Tonali has been handed a 10-month ban from all football by Italian prosecutors for breaching betting regulation.
For Newcastle, it was devastating. Their most expensive signing reduced to a headline scandal. For Tonali, it was worse. The new Pirlo wasn't dictating games in Europe. He was watching them from the sidelines, his reputation collapsing like a house of cards. By 2025, Tonali's transfer wasn't remembered for his passes, his vision, or his promise. It was remembered as one of the most expensive disasters in Premier League history. The gamble wasn't just in his bets, it was in Newcastle's belief that they had bought a safe foundation. Instead, they got a ticking time bomb. Level 6 is haunting because it proves something every fan fears. Money can buy talent, but it can't buy discipline. And once trust is gone, no amount of goals or assists can bring it back. If Tonali's disaster showed us how gambling off the pitch can end a career, Level 7 takes us to a transfer where the betrayal happened inside the dressing room. A superstar, a new contract, and a manager who felt stabbed in the back. This isn't just a disaster, it's a full-blown football civil war. Level 7. Kylian Mbappé at Real Madrid. The dream that turned into civil war. For years, football fans lived with one certainty. Kylian Mbappé to Real Madrid was destiny. From the moment he exploded at Monaco, tore Argentina apart at the 2018 World Cup, and lifted the trophy as a teenager, the Bernabeu crowd dreamed of him wearing white. Florentino Perez courted him like royalty. Madridistas painted banners, chanted his name, and even left empty space in their squad as if his arrival was written in stone. Finally, in 2025, the prophecy came true. Mbappé left PSG, walked into the Santiago Bernabeu as the most hyped signing since Cristiano Ronaldo, and signed a contract that made him the highest paid player in world football. The headline screamed, Galactico reborn. But the fairy tale lasted only a few weeks. Inside Madrid, the balance cracked immediately. Vinicius Jr., already the heart of the attack, wasn't going to hand over his throne easily. Rodrigo, who had fought to establish himself, suddenly felt sidelined. And then came Carlo Ancelotti's headache. Do you build the team around the 200 million euro superstar, or stay loyal to the players who just delivered Champions League glory? Training sessions became tense. Spanish media split into factions, some defending Mbappé, others protecting the Brazilian core. Fans booed when he failed to score, while critics whispered that the French captain wasn't Madrid material. What was supposed to be a dynasty suddenly looked like a battlefield. Mbappé's numbers weren't bad, but the optics were brutal. A player signed to be the next Ronaldo was now being compared to Hazard, a luxury signing without a home. His identity as PSG's poster boy didn't translate in Madrid's ruthless ecosystem. Every missed chance was exaggerated, every clash magnified. Level 7 hits harder because it's not about injury or scandal. It's about ego versus legacy. Madrid got the superstar they always wanted, but in the process, they broke the chemistry that made them untouchable. And Mbappé? He went from being the savior of Madrid to being accused of tearing it apart. Betrayal and humiliation can ruin reputations, but level 8 is darker still. This is where a player's return becomes a public scandal, and a career that once glittered ends in courtroom lights and suspended jerseys. Level 8. Paul Pogba at Juventus, from World Cup icon to public shame. Paul Pogba's story reads like a Greek tragedy. From the world's most expensive midfielder to a World Cup winner in 2018 to an attempted homecoming that turned into a stain on his legacy. His second spell in Italy never settled, interrupted by injuries, inconsistency, and off-field chaos, but 2025 delivered the decisive blow, a long doping suspension that sidelined him at the worst possible moment.
He was banned after the A test came back positive for testosterone. He asked for the B sample to then be tested. That too came back positive in October. The prosecutors asked for the maximum ban to be imposed of 4 years.
Reports through mid-2025 show Pogba's ban ending and him planning a route back into football, even agreeing terms with AS Monaco. But the optics remain brutal. A global star reduced to legal statements and medical tests instead of match days and medals. Why this is level 8, it's no longer just decline, it's public disgrace. The player who once danced through midfield now faces the silence of headlines that don't say Pogba the magician. They say Pogba the case. Even if the ban ends and a club offers a lifeline, the humiliation scars a legacy forever. That's a different tier of disaster. One that doesn't just cost minutes on the pitch, it costs trust, sponsorships, and the right to be a symbol again. Level 8 destroys an individual's name. Level 9 destroys an empire. It's when a transfer window, meant to build the club's future, blows the whole rebuild apart, turning hope into a crisis that echoes through boardrooms and stadiums. Level 9, Manchester United, 2025, the rebuild that broke the club. The summer of 2025 was supposed to be Manchester United's reset. The club signed headline names: Matthias Cunha from Wolves, Brian Mbeumo from Brentford, and Benjamin Šeško from RB Leipzig, each expensive, each bought to fix a decade of failure. Cunha's move was officially confirmed by the club. Mbeumo and Šeško followed as high-profile additions. But instead of stability, the signings created seismic pressure. Expectations exploded, integration failed, early form was patchy, and results didn't follow. Journalists and analysts argued that the window's choices warped the club's structure and the market around it. Within months, the manager and board were on the back foot as the new faces failed to deliver the instant uplift that the club and the fans demanded. By autumn, the rebuild looked like a house of cards. The manager publicly admitted the club must show improvement. Major outlets reported growing pressure on Ruben Amorim as performances soured and the season slipped. The transfers that were meant to be the foundation of a new era became the anchors that dragged the project down. Huge fees, tactical mismatch, squad dysfunction, and a fan base that began to question the entire plan. That is level 9, not one star failing, but an investment strategy that fractures a club's identity and leaves reputations in ashes. And that was the climb. 9 levels, each one darker than the last. From price tags to politics, from shattered bodies to broken projects, all the way to level 9, where a single transfer didn't just fail, it collapsed everything around it. But here's the real question. Was level 9 truly the peak of disaster? Or do you think another transfer in 2025 deserves that crown? Because in football, gambles don't just lose money, they bury legacies. So tell me, which level hit you hardest?